Hey seniors, Miss Tinty here. I'm going to be presenting a lesson today for Mr. Z's class and for my own class. As you know, in English 12, we've been talking about the idea of a cultural critique. And when we think about a cultural critique, we need to think back to our notes from earlier this week. So a cultural critique is a way of analyzing media, focusing on how various groups are represented and what those messages are being sent about those groups. So the types of groups that we sometimes can see cultural critiques on are different ages, kind of like generations, like we talked about the other day, religion, gender, race, sexual orientation, nationality, ethnicity, class, etc. And earlier this week, we asked you to take a look at this little comic. It says, look at the image below. It depicts a group unfairly. Carefully examine the image. Now, when we say group, we're talking about a whole body of people. In this instance, we only see one person, but what's happening is this one person is being generalized, an entire group of people, based on a stereotype. And so it's clear that this gal is in a beauty contest of some kind. We know that because she's got the little sash and she's dressed. And the host is saying, what is the capital of Texas? The capital of Texas, meaning what's the capital city of Texas? And instead of saying Austin, she says T, because T is the capital of the word Texas. And the idea that they're trying to illustrate here is that she is not very smart. And the reason that they're saying she's not very smart is because it might be because she has blonde hair, which is a stereotype that we see in our country a lot, or because she's very beautiful that she can't be very smart. This is a stereotype, and we're going to talk today about what are stereotypes and what is problematic about stereotypes. So here we go. Stereotypes is sort of the idea that all people, like people like that, are all this way. People that are all men are like this. All women are like this. All Asians are like this. All white people are like this. All black people are like this. It's these generalizations about an entire group of people that are often not true and can be harmful when applied to just one person. So I try and get to know people as individuals because I know it is unfair to think all people in a shared identity group, whether that's their race, their gender, are the same. And that's true. We have to try to get to know people as individuals. We can't just think because you are this, you are that. So what are stereotypes and what does stereotyping mean? Stereotypes are assumptions we make about someone because of one part of their identity. Pictures or ideas in our minds about a whole group of people. They are all blah, blah, blah. People who are this always are that. Those people are good at, they all like to do, right? So these are assumptions that people might say about a particular group. So here's a little example. Here we got some golden retrievers, dogs, and pit bulls, okay? When we think about a golden retriever dog, the image that often pops into your head is like, golden retrievers, oh yeah, they're like the nicest dogs. Is that true for every golden retriever? No. I actually had a golden retriever growing up that was very naughty, and one time when I was taking him for a walk, he instead took me on a walk, dragging me a full city block, and I was covered in gravel and blood, and I was really badly injured. So it's not always true that just because it's a golden retriever dog, it's always going to be a nice dog. In the same way, a pit bull dog often has a bad reputation as being a violent dog or a mean dog. And I can tell you, those of you who know Miss Loftus, she has a pit bull dog, and his name is Vertigo, and he is the sweetest puppy. Just because he is a pit bull does not make him a violent dog or an aggressive dog or a mean dog. So these are stereotypes about dogs. There are stereotypes that exist about girls versus boys. I'm sure you can think of what some of those might be. This one says kids these days. There are stereotypes that exist about people simply because of their age. All teenagers must be like this. As teenagers, you know that's not necessarily true, but stereotypes like this do exist. How about senior citizens or elderly people? There are assumptions made about elderly people simply because of their age. People with lots of tattoos or body piercings, like this guy here, he's got a lot of tattoos and his ears are pierced. Sometimes people make negative assumptions about people with these tattoos and piercings that are just simply not true. You know, that they're violent or they're bad guys just because they have tattoos. I know a lot of people who have a lot of tattoos that are wonderful people. Assumptions are made about students who are quiet or shy. There's stereotypes about all types of groups. We've got Asian people, immigrants, refugees, black people, Muslims, Jewish people, thin people, big people, people with lots of money, people with not so much money, and many, many, many more. There's so many stereotypes that exist out there. And these stereotypes can be harmful. Well, where do they come from? Sometimes these are stereotypes that are learned. People have taught these to us. They've put these ideas in our mind. When I say people, it could be your own family members or your own friend groups, but more often than not, it comes from the media, television, what you are seeing on internet, Facebook, those kinds of things. It's important to know that stereotypes can be unlearned. When we unlearn something, we confront something we have previously believed, and we learn the truth and we change our minds about that idea, right? Like for years, I always thought that any kind of stew, like beef stew as a kid, I was like, oh my gosh, beef stew, that's horrible. That's old people food. Gross, gross, gross. I don't like it. I don't want to eat it. I don't want to look at it. Gross. Finally, my husband, who's a very good cook, said, just try this. You'll like it. Just try it. And I tried it and I was like, oh dang, this is really tasty. I unlearned my disdain for beef stew. In the same way, you can unlearn stereotypes that you have been presented with and maybe formerly believed. So here we have an image of for girls and for boys. So you see we've got girls as here she is cleaning, keeping up the house. We've got like a cute little teddy bear. And then this one's kind of interesting. This is a woman, and you can tell her job is that she's a teacher. On the opposite end, here we've got a boy. His job here appears to be taking out the trash, driving the car, robot, so something with engineering. And then the job that is presented here is a doctor. And a lot of times people have this idea that women can't be doctors or men can't be nurses. These are stereotypes that are just simply untrue and harmful because it often limits what people believe that they can do or believe what other people can do. Anybody can be a doctor. Anybody who's willing to go to school for a long time can be a doctor. All right, so let's look at some examples. Mason keeps trying to start conversations with Malachi about rappers because Malachi is black. So the assumption that Mason is making here is he believes that because Malachi is black, he must like rap. It's the same as that video we watched where the man and the woman crossed paths as they were running, and he kept asking her, where's she from? And she's like, I'm from California. But where are you from? He was trying to get at her cultural identity, and he was trying to pinpoint her as a person based on her cultural identity. Oh, you must love kimchi. Oh, I love Korean barbecue. And she's like, okay, that has nothing to do with who I am as an individual. And you are trying to guess who I am or think you know about who I am based on a small part of my identity. And you are stereotyping me because of that. Grace assumes that her classmate Thomas's parents don't have jobs because she knows his family doesn't have much money. So sometimes there are stereotypes when it comes to wealth. We know that in this country, some people make more money and some people make less money. Now, just because somebody has a job that doesn't pay as well as others doesn't mean they don't have a job. Doesn't mean that they're lazy. They might not have the same education or same experience to have a higher paying job, but it doesn't, you should not assume what you know about somebody's family simply because you know they maybe don't have the nicest house or the nicest clothes. You can't assume that they just don't have a job at all. Melanie goes to church twice a week with her family, so she never wants to be partners with Olivia, who never goes because she thinks they won't work well together. Now, this is an interesting one. The girl Melanie, who's a regular churchgoer, is making some stereotypes about somebody who doesn't go to church. She might have this idea that because she doesn't go to church, she's a bad person, and that is completely unfair. Your religion doesn't equate how good or bad of a person you are. And so Melanie is holding some pretty unfair stereotypes against Olivia. Everyone else always asks Maylin for help when they're stuck in math, and it seems like her teacher calls on her more than everyone else in science. Now, this is a stereotype that has existed for a very long time. The stereotype is that, Asian students are smarter or better at math. And Maylin might be an average math student, and she should not have the responsibility of constantly having to help her classmates, and it's unfair of her math teacher to assume that she's always going to have the right answer. She may very well be a good math student, but that's purely coincidence. We cannot assume that just because somebody is Asian that they are smarter or better at math. That is a stereotype that you may have heard before, and it's pretty unfair of a stereotype. So stereotypes come along with this big word, which is bias or prejudice. And when we say prejudice, we've got the word pre in this word. Pre meaning before. When we are being prejudiced, we are prejudging someone. So simply by looking at someone, you take into account what you see, and you might come up with an idea about who that person is based on stereotypes that have been presented to you in your life. So it's our job as citizens of the world to take a really close look at the stereotypes that exist and figure out, where do they come from, why are they problematic, and how can I make a change? So here's a question that we're going to have you guys answer today. It says, and I don't think you can see this whole box, I'm so sorry. It says, what are 2 stereotypes people have about you? You may want to answer by using this sentence and filling in the blanks, and you're going to do that on the assignment piece next. It says, just because people think that, but actually the truth is I. Okay, so let me give you an example about myself personally. Going back to the picture we saw in class with the girl with the blonde hair who said the capital of Texas was T. For me personally, I have blonde hair like that girl. So it says, just because I am blonde, people think that I'm not very smart. But actually, the truth is, I am very smart, and I have advanced degrees. Okay? So that's an example of a stereotype about myself that people may hold, and what the truth about that really is. What are 3 stereotypes that you used to believe or that you see or hear around you? So think about a little bit about stereotypes you've been presented. It could be a stereotype about you personally, or it could be a stereotype that exists just in the world that you've been exposed to. So I want you to kind of be thinking about, what are those stereotypes that you have seen or heard in your time here? Why is it harmful to believe these things about a whole group of people? So why is that problematic? When we say problematic, what is the problem with that? There are many problems that exist with stereotypes. Have you ever seen or experienced an example of someone being biased or prejudiced against a group of people? And I know in our class in particular, a student shared some experience that she had when she was at Target, and somebody came up to her and began to yell at her in the store simply because she was Asian. And this person assumed, oh, you're Asian, that means that you brought coronavirus to Minnesota. And she was like, what? No, just because I'm Asian doesn't mean I have coronavirus. This is a very, very harmful stereotype. All right, so what is a stereotype people believe about you? This is the work today. So just because I am a girl, a boy, an Asian, an immigrant, black, a teenager, whatever, just because I am blank, people think that I am what? What's the stereotype? But actually, the truth is I. So you are going to be completing this question after you finish watching this video. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching.